Hello everyone. I'm recording this because somehow the live stream at 5 o'clock that I want to do on Sundays didn't quite work for me today. So I'm just going to record it. It keeps telling me that I have to connect the camera and the microphone. And anyway, I think I need some assistance. So it didn't work today. So I'm recording this. And the purpose of this is to go through your questions and commentaries and try to address them. And I am going to do that right now. Let me see. I'm going to try to find your comments here. The comments for the last week. Yeah. Let me go. Let me see. Okay. So one of you says, no doubt that the Susanna Fulhumber site 4753. This is regarding sort of an older video. You say the video was President Trump promised a culture of common sense. This was quite a few days ago, and you say no doubt that the oligarchs will label Roger Kimball an anti-Semitic racist, the powers that should not be deperson, debank, and deplatform anyone that they themselves decide are guilty of certain things. Yeah, this is... Roger Kimball actually is someone worth watching. He is the publisher, editor and publisher of New Criterion, and it's certainly worth it's certainly worth following him. Hannah Davia 8791, you are responding to disillusionment, the last one, disillusionment and demoralization settling in the West, and you say I agree, you agree with me. Before my conversion, I so wanted to believe and belong and tried to believe and belong to so many things, all a substitute for Christ and his church. I know what you are referring to, Hannah Davia, because pretty much the same happened to me, actually. It's difficult for someone who hasn't experienced this or hasn't become aware of the power that is there in ourselves to believe in transcendence and in God. If you are not open to that, it's difficult to explain and difficult to comprehend. There is no way of explaining it because it's something that one has to sort of experience. Now, I'm not talking about, I know that God will give grace to whomever he wants in different ways and in different forms, but what I'm talking about is to at least be open to the possibility that believing in God or believing in the sacredness of life or believing in a transcendence beyond yourself, that doesn't make you less, it doesn't make you a slave, it's actually the opposite. It provides a certain focus, a certain center, a certain north from which you see and experience everything else, and it's actually it does make you much freer. It's like having limits to, but it's like being centered instead of just all over the place where you don't know where you're going. That is when you have yourself as the center. And it does provide a guidance. I certainly agree with you there. Stracat JP8XG, you say, a question that can never be answered: who made God and who made that God, we might find out that man made the God's story in our own image to control people. This is in answer to, again, the last video, disillusionment and demoralization. I don't know exactly what you mean, because there are two issues here, and you, in my way of thinking, you are mixing two contradictory things. First of all, about the question is who made God, and you bring back something that has been going on forever. Okay, did God created us, or did we create God? This goes back to the Greeks, and in the 19th century, it was Feuerbach in the 1830s who actually asked, and then Marx took it over, that it is not that God created us, but that we created God in our own image. The Greeks had decided that it was not that the gods were there, but we had created them in order to give a presence to our human experiences. And in that way, perhaps it was true that the pagan gods were, you had the god of war and the god of love and the god of hate and all that. Those were human qualities, but you have to differentiate that between this other understanding of God, the creator. So there are two different things here. But then you say that we might find out man made the God story, and then you say in our own image to control the people. In other words, that's contradictory, I think, because if we created God in our own image, surely it was not to control ourselves. I don't know exactly what you mean there. It would have been to free us in some sort of way. So I don't understand the connection there. Perhaps it's just me, I'm not reading it properly. Okay, Jelestad 5130, you say in reply to the same comment to the same video, you say, starting off as a Catholic, then a communist, and then various other isms, and now at the age of 81 years of age, ending up as a small c conservative, I have come to the sad conclusion that unfortunately the human condition is what it is and it will not change. But I am pleased to witness the beginning of a fair world being born, thanks to both Russia and China. The West does not see it this way, unfortunately. They are terrified of what they have done to the world. Of what they have done to the world will be done to them. The human condition at work. Yes, I sympathize with you too, because I had that sort of a journey too, starting off very much as a Catholic and then leaving the church and then coming back and that sort of thing. You say, I am pleased to witness the beginning of a fairer world being born. I agree with you. At the end of this, when I deal with the comments, there are not very many, I'm going to talk about this, whether we are certainly at a crossroads. I don't know whether we can say that we are beginning something new, but I'll deal with that at the end of the video, okay? What else do I have here? Oh yes, I like the other setting better, Lali, with the camera up higher and a wide view, the lovely room behind you. Oh, I so agree. And I replied to you saying, okay, let me tell you this saga with my camera, and I haven't been able to sort it out yet. Yes, I do I did like the other setting much better. The camera, you see, what happened is that my old desktop died. I don't know that I tell you this in the other video, and I think I actually helped it, because one day I started saying, oh my goodness, I have all these old things here, and I started deleting, and I practically deleted myself, because all of a sudden everything went black. Apparently I had deleted some major systems thing. I had deleted practically everything anyway, a whole saga there. I took it to the shop. They helped me retrieve it, and they said, well, you know, long story, but I had to get a laptop. Okay, now with the laptop, and the camera was also very old. And with the new laptop, I tried to use the same old camera, which was, you know, something that I plugged in and so on. And it didn't work. It didn't work because the connections, well, anyway, it didn't work. So I had to use what I'm using now, the inbuilt camera of the laptop. But this camera is so, I don't like it. It's a very cold, sort of bluish kind of light. The other one was much more cozy. It was anyway. So I went back to the shop and I said, look, everything is fine. I'm fine with everything. I only have one question. And that is that with this new camera, this new laptop, I record something, and then when I go to upload it onto YouTube, they tell me it will take 2 hours. With the other one, with my old desktop, which was huge and heavy, it was like a coffin. It was huge. It was like, 15 years old. Everything was like 15 years old. And I said, with the old camera, it was 5 minutes. 5 minutes, maximum 8 perhaps. But it uploaded right away. And this takes 2 hours. At first I thought it was a mistake, but it actually did take 2 hours to upload something which, was, I don't know, an hour long, something. And they said, oh, it's because this new camera is high resolution camera. And I said, what does that mean? Well, you see, your old camera was probably, very, very low resolution. It was how old was the camera? I said, about 15 years. Oh, he said no, because you see, they're very low. And I said, okay, but the fact is that old camera, low resolution, worked very, very well. And these he told me that the other camera was probably 200 and something, whatever, and this is like almost 2000. No. I said, but I don't like this new camera. So anyway, he said, oh, you can go to the video and you can lower the high resolution and so on. Okay, so I lowered it and it still took an hour. So I'm lowering it more so that it doesn't take me 2 hours to upload the video. And the image is not that good. So I'm stuck with this high resolution thing, which I don't like. I much prefer the older one. Anyway, the other thing is also that because it's a completely different camera, I cannot get the angle of the room I'm in the same way. If I try to put it in the same place, I'm sorry about all this explanation, but it's actually quite funny. It will get the ceiling, it will get the light, it will get, no. So I change it the other way, and then I change it the other way, and it just doesn't get the same angle. I will continue trying, but I can't. And this is I just have it right there because because otherwise I get ceilings and doors and things. So that is where I am. I understand that the other one was a little bit more cozy. I just don't seem to be able to, at this stage, to do it. Okay, another one. Jeffrey Gatuma, 1771. Great work as always. Thank you. I'm sure you're busy as a bee, so here goes nothing. You did a good job in introducing me to Catherine the Great. If it's possible, can you do another profile? Thank you. Yes, and I did reply that at the same time, I think this is a few months ago, I did another profile on Queen Isabella of Spain. And perhaps I should do actually another one. Because this is what I believe. You have heard me complain many times about women politicians nowadays. It's not specifically because they are women. I have nothing against women, believe me. And there is plenty of leaders, main leaders, who deserve criticism, as we all know. The point is that with women leaders, reading history, I have reached this conclusion. Because let's start from the fact that we are different, male and female, and not only biologically, but that biology gives us a different perspective, a different way of doing things. You are good at this and I am good at that. I start from that. Now, what I have noticed in history, I just wonder whether you agree with this or not, is that there have been great women leaders in history. Joan of Arc, Isabel of Spain, Catherine the Great, many. Elizabeth I in England, Queen Victoria also. What they all have in common, I think, is that in order to be effective, I think due to our own psychology as women too, we have to have almost absolute power. In other words, we have to be able to say, this is how things are going to be done, this is not how things are. In other words, to have that authority and that power. And then we are great. When we are not great is when we have to look over our shoulders, because almost unconsciously without thinking, we are dependent upon, consciously or unconsciously, about what others think of us. It might be unconscious, but we have this gatherer thing, yes, inside us, to the preservation of things, to the conservation of things. So what our environment is reacting to, what we are saying or we are doing, is important to us. And so what women leaders have nowadays is that what you find is that they follow, they obey, they do not upset the apple cart, as if it was just us, we would be able to do it. But we can't, because of the circumstances we find ourselves in. So we find that they become very mediocre. In other words, we actually have to have the power to change or to do things, or we become just, let's say, obey what others tell us. I feel very strongly about that. Perhaps I should do another profile, perhaps go to Rome and see how they did it. Because you see, there are many ways to exercise power anyway. And when we don't have absolute power, what we do very well is the whispering behind the leaders. We do that very well. Remember in France in the 18th century, 19th century, the salons that women had. Okay, they didn't have the actual power that men had, but if you didn't go, and if those women, they had a lot of soft power, if you didn't go through those salons and if they didn't think much of you as a politician, as a diplomat, you wouldn't make it. There are many ways of exercising power, and I think if we don't have that absolute power, then we have to use power in a different way, and it's not by being there the number one. I think we are better at number two. All right. And one of you says, also, in reply to disillusionment, demoralization, and betrayal, you say, too complicated for me. Oh dear. Okay, I can't do anything about that. I had to delete one, which was very rude, with the word bitch and things like that. I don't even, that's it. I don't mind you disagreeing with me. I would love you to disagree with me and just bring points. But when you just, insult, I'm not going to deal with that at all. Okay, so what I, not to make this very long, when I said we are at a crossroads in the West, what is now called the West, our civilization, the inertia that we feel, many of us nowadays, and we have been feeling for quite a long time, leads to our societies and our civilization being deconstructed. And if nothing is done, the natural thing is that it will go on as it is at the moment. So while some are deconstructed, I think we have now to engage in a new reconstruction. A new reconstruction is called for if we care about our civilization. By deconstruction, I mean that our countries, in appearance, will look the same as they have always done, more or less. But in essence, we are on the way to becoming something different from our own national historical identity. What is this thing, this deconstruction of the West, of Christendom, or at least of Christian Europe, Christian civilization? How is it being deconstructed? Well, deconstruction is not the same. It's not the same thing as destruction, the same thing as destroying. Deconstruction is not the same thing as destruction. We are not going to be destroyed or crushed or reduced to dust, let's hope. But what has been happening, what is being done is to dismantle its fundamental elements, dismantle the key pieces that form that civilization, dismantle the glue that kept societies together. And to each of these pieces, history, identity, religion, etc., what they have done is to assign to them a different meaning that sometimes is even contrary to what in fact it was. If you take anything, a piece of whatever, okay, dismantle it into separate units, into individual pieces, and then assign to them, to each one, a different meaning, a different role, a different purpose to the one that it originally had, or even contrary to the one proper to what it's supposed to do. And then you go and put it all together again. In appearance, it might be the same. It will look the same, but it will not be the same. And this is what is happening in our cultures and in our nations. So in this deconstruction, we will have, after it takes place, this complete deconstruction. It will be put together somehow, but it will have the appearance of England, the appearance of France, the appearance of the United States, the appearance of Australia, the appearance of what it was, but it will be something different with different purposes. Now the question is, how are we going to regain or reconstruct that which has been deconstructed? These are the crossroads we find ourselves in nowadays. And many will say, I'm perfectly okay, I'm perfectly happy with this new reassembling of the national identity. This is advance, this is progress. I'm all in favor of modernity. This is advance, this is leaving behind all those, the past, the old superstitions. That's the past, that's long gone. Who wants that? That tradition that provides the union between the past, what has gone on before, and the continuation into the future. And they will say, what is the point of that? And a large section of the population in each of our countries, consciously or unconsciously, agree with that and favor it. But there is also another large part of the citizens of our own countries that do not see it that way, that they want to create, to provide an alternative. They want to bring a stop to this dismantling, this deconstruction process, this post-modernity that we call it now. So that is the crossroads we are at right now. To continue on with this deconstruction and rebuilding into a new identity, leaving behind who we are, who we always were, what our culture truly is or means, or generate an alternative which will mean a new renaissance, a refoundation, a renovation, a renewal of what other countries and our national identities are within our own culture, our own tradition. So this is the crossroads, and this is which map route do we follow? Continue with deconstruction and then remake a new identity that has little to do with the past, or stop it and provide an alternative based on that renaissance, that reunion, that reawakening, that self-recognition of who we truly are in our own national historical identity. We don't want our countries to become something else while pretending to be what they always were, the appearance of what they were. So how did we get here? My goodness, to this period of deconstruction, of dismantling of our own culture. Well, you can go back a long time, but the deconstruction itself is relatively a modern process. I think you can go back without going any further, go back to the 19th century. The trauma of modernity, the trauma suffered by the whole of European and Western civilization in general, I know it goes back, but this new aspect of modernity and postmodernity, globalism, and so on, a deconstruction that has always, as a traveling companion, indeed it is an essential element, fragmentation, breaking up into pieces that will take, this fragmentation will take different forms in different countries. Okay, so your fault line, your fragmentation in this particular country will be because you speak different languages, or because you look different, or because whatever it might be. There is always a point at which society can fragment. We have to end perhaps this perhaps I should think a little bit more about it and do a video on this, on how to reconstruct, to say no to the appearance of what we are and go back to what we really are, that renaissance, that reunion with tradition, which is going to be essential if we want to keep our culture the way it always was. And I think I will leave it there today. All right. Well, thank you for your comments. I will try to I will try to sort out my live stream. Okay. But please leave your comments. And if you have a question, a specific question, just put question there so I can go straight to it. Okay. Thank you very much for listening. Bye-bye.